Hi, everybody. I'm Lance Courtney, Vice President of AMPLIFY Hair, powered by Easy Hair Pro. And we're coming at you live. It is November 23rd with 5.5 weeks left in the year. I want to welcome you, whether you are live or watching this on a recording. You are here for one reason, to make the rest of the year the best of the year. So what we're going to do is kick off with a clip that I hope really starts instituting some things and getting the noodle cooking, as it were. So stay tuned. I'll be right back in 2 minutes.
When I hear the clock ticking. And time waits for no man. Life goes by, and it goes by quick. Don't waste those years. Don't waste them. Live them. I want you to be terrified of sitting on the sidelines and doing nothing. Waking up in 6 days or 6 weeks or 6 years or 60 years and being no closer to your goal. You've made no progress. That is the nightmare. That is what you really need to be afraid of, being stagnant. So get up and go. That idea isn't going to execute itself. That book isn't going to write itself. Those weights out in the gym, they aren't going to move themselves. You have to do it, and you have to do it now. Don't wait anymore. Don't think anymore. Don't plan anymore. Don't contemplate anymore. Don't make any more excuses or justifications. Don't rationalize anything else. No. Take the risk. Take the gamble. Take the first step. Take action now. No complacency. No backing off. No slack whatsoever.
No more dreaming. Dreaming is over. I need specifics. What are you doing on Monday? What are you doing on Tuesday? What are you doing on Wednesday? You need to be very specific. It's time to put your pieces together of your puzzle. You need to be in a big damn hurry. Time is running out on you. There's 86,400 seconds in a day. The separator between me and you and people that win and lose is what we do with those seconds. And you're too slow. You're too casual. You think too much. You need to get in a hurry because there's an end to your life and it's coming sooner than you think. It goes by in a flicker, and at some point, it's going to be over.
And we want to make a conscious, deliberate, determined effort to start living life with a sense of urgency and using what we've got, using ourselves up, sharing what we brought into the universe to share. Because if we don't, nobody else will. Stop wasting valuable time. If we begin to live our lives as if each day were our last, our lives will take on a whole new meaning.
When you die, when life is over for you, I don't want you to have one idea left in you. I don't want one dream left in you. When you die, I want you to go for broke. Every seed that you...
All right, everybody. So hopefully that got your noodle cooking a little bit. You have 5.5 weeks left in the year. And here's what I do know. I know that we've gone through a lot this year. In fact, I think we can all admit that this year has been the longest decade that many of us has actually lived through. However, within every single cloud, there is a silver lining. And the silver lining that you have is those 86,400 seconds that you have in every single day to make the rest of the year the best of the year, to make the most out of every single moment and every single minute. Now, currently, you might be seeing less clients. Currently, in certain places, there are where you can only see 25% occupancy, 50% occupancy, but it's not the amount of clients that you see, it's what you do with each and every single client. So I want to welcome you, and I want to invite you to consider what you want to do with the remaining 5 weeks of the year, because your life doesn't start at the end of COVID. It doesn't start at the end of this year. It doesn't begin in January. Your life, living inspired, fulfilled, and energized, is right now. There's no such thing as perfect timing. There's only right timing, and the right timing is always right now. NOW, no opportunity wasted. So With that being the case, our intention here at Amplify is to really amplify your career, amplify your life, amplify the quality of your life. Our commitment is creating successful salon professionals. And at the end of the day, you're either living inspired or you're living expired, and the choice is always yours. So I want to invite you to make the right choice, and I want to congratulate you on making the choice to be here today. So consider that opportunity is equal, but results are never. And I want you to think about this. In this example, what I want you to look at is this graphic. There are 4 hairdressers, and in this particular day, they all see 5 customers, and they all happen to charge the same amount for a haircut. Now, consider it's not what you charge for a haircut or how many customers you might see in a single day. But again, it's what you do with every customer. It's what you do with every minute. It's how you leverage every single hour. And we're going to look at the numbers because numbers tell us what emotions will not. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to play a guessing game. One of these people is going to win a gold medal. And you're going to give the gold medal to the person who produces the most in a single day. Now, I think you can do the math already. They're all seeing 5 clients. They charge $50 a haircut. And if you do nothing more than haircuts, you'll generate $250 in a single day. However, at the end of the day, Becky generates $250, Bobby generates $375, Megan generates $780, and Ashley generates $425. So here's the question, team. Who wins the gold medal? And if your answer is Megan, you're right. The question that you need to ask yourself is, what is Megan doing that Becky, Bobby, and Ashley are not doing or not doing enough of? What is she doing? How is she interacting with those guests in such a way to where she's generating that much? And team, this is critical. You have 5.5 weeks left in the rest of the year. What you do with each and every single customer matters. However, consider the fact that as human beings, we tend to take on a new action to avoid pain or to gain reward. So let's look at Becky. What is she doing? Well, she's doing exactly what is on the books. She's doing the minimum, and there's nothing wrong with it. However, the impact is vast. In this industry, I've been in this industry for over 25 years, and I've been on the outside, inside, and backside of more salons and spas than anybody I know of personally and professionally. What I do know is there are more single mothers in this industry than any other industry on the planet. And when you look at this and you consider that both Megan and Becky, the person who did the most and the person who did the least in this day with the same amount of clients, are both single mothers, you have to consider the impact and what the consequence is. How many more days does Becky have to work in order to generate what Megan is generating in a single day? And the answer is 3.5 days. Conversely, Megan, who now is not only a hairdresser, but because of COVID, she's also a homeschool teacher, now gets to actually generate over $2,100 working 3 days a week. Her goal is $2,400. Now, here's the point, team. You might not be able to control a lot of things, how many clients you see, what your prices are, but here's what you can absolutely control: what you do with every single client. And it's called your average service ticket. So your average service ticket has nothing to do with what you charge for a haircut. It has everything to do with your total service dollars divided by the total number of clients that you see in a day, a week, a month, a quarter, etc. Now, I'm sharing this with you because the theme here, the art of pre-booking and making reservations, the theme is really about leverage. The theme is really what you do with what you have. Technical ability is great. And for anybody who just logged in or you're watching, I want you to pay fastidious attention and turn up the volume, because listen, you can learn a new haircut, you can learn a color technique, you can learn about hair extensions, and that's fantastic. However, consider, here's a fact: technical ability will only account for 15% of your financial success. 85% of your financial success is going to be predicated upon your business acumen, your ability to leverage numbers, your ability to increase average service ticket, your ability to get your clients to come in more often, 85%. So hairdressers who perform in the top 1%, in this measurable category in our industry? No. And team, consider the fact that through 2020, not only have we been through the ringer, but the reality is so many of us are trying to make up for that dreaded COVID revenue gap. So many of us are trying to make up for anywhere between 6 to 9 weeks. In some cases, some of the hairdressers throughout California have been closed for 6 months. So how much more important is it now more than ever, to really focus on the 85% of things that are going to support you in leveraging your business and supporting you in doing more with less? This is not a concept. This is a reality. And team, this is more than just resuscitating your business. There's so many people that I talk to, hairdressers, that are like, I'm trying to make up for that gap. I didn't work for nearly 6 months. I'm trying to close that gap. I'm trying to resuscitate. There's no making up. And I know it's not a popular concept, but it's the reality. Succeeding in the face of a challenge means moving from resuscitation to reinvention. This is a reinvention. There's no makeup. You can't make up for that 6 weeks, that 8 weeks, that 6 months of revenue that you didn't get. There's no making up, but there is a reinvention. And hairdressers who understand how to reinvent their business are hairdressers who can do 10 times more with 10 times less. And in these 3 series, we're going to show you exactly how to really tap into that 85% of tools and systems and things that you need in order to do more than just close the COVID revenue gap, but excel and exceed beyond it. So the idea is creating a new model, and I'll give you a sneak peek of what we're going to be doing in the second series. But I want to introduce to you a model. Now, if you're a hairdresser and you're not generating 6 figures, if you're a hairdresser and you're not generating 6 figures in this industry, regardless of the COVID constraints, then there's a broken model. But I want you to think about this. Numbers tell us what emotions will not. So if you want to generate $100,000 a day, and think about this. Let's say you're seeing 6 guests a day. Well, per month, it's $8,333. I know that seems like a lot, but how do you eat an elephant? One small, chewy, hairy bite at a time. So let's really break it down, right? Per week, this comes down to $1,938. But earlier, remember how we said it's about your average service ticket? Let's break this down so you have a model to take away going into the holidays with a clear target to hit. If you work 5 days a week, your service goal is $388. That means per guest, you need to generate $64.60. Now, if you're one of those hairdressers or one of these service provider in this industry who also is homeschooling because schools are shut down, you might not have the luxury of working 5 days a week. So if you work 4 days a week, the goal increases and the average service ticket is $80.75. And if you want to work 3 days a week, and we're talking about quality of life and balance, work 3 days a week, here's the interesting thing. $646 generates $107.60 per guest. That's what you have to average per guest, is $107.67. Now, for those of you who are AMPLIFY certified, those of you who are already AMPLIFY certified, you might already be generating 6 figures. So now you want to level up because numbers are the numbers that you use to build your business. So $150,000, if that's the target, remember numbers tell us what emotions will not. So what this means is your average service ticket needs to be about $97 per guest, and your daily goal is $581. 4 days, the goal changes. 3 days, the goal changes. And again, numbers are the lumber that you use to build your business. But I want you to look at this as a model for how you can reinvent your business. Now, team, if you're not yet hitting these numbers, we're going to give you some amazing tools and systems to support you in elevating the quality of your life and your career in order to hit those numbers. Our commitment at Amplify Hair, our commitment is creating successful salon professionals. What does that mean? That means to give you the tools, the resources, the systems in order to do a lot more, measurably more, with measurably less. Now, you might be looking at this and going, Lance, my gosh, you know, I'm really stretched at this moment, just trying to do the bare minimum. I don't know how possible that is. And I hear this. People go, you know what, I see this, $150,000 a year, working 3 days a week, but that seems impossible. And here's what I want you to consider, what Muhammad Ali said. Impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in a world that they've been given rather than explore the power of what they have to change it. And impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. It's not a declaration, it's a dare. It's potential, it's temporary, but I'll go so far as to say this. Albert Einstein says, when you change the way that you look at things, the things that you look at begin to change. So if you think about the word impossible and you change the way you look at it and you zoom out, what you might see is what the top 1% in this industry see. And what they see is I'm possible. So I would invite you into the world of what we call being a possibilitarian. And in being a possibilitarian, you focus on three things. There's 3 performance indicators. So the 3 KPIs that we're going to be focusing on in these 3 series is 1, increasing your average service ticket. 2 is increasing your average retail ticket. 3 is increasing your pre-booking percentage. Now, we typically take 3 days to go over this, or if you do one of our live classes, we do this in a day, or if you do one of our online certification classes, we do it in a series of different chapters. And we're not attached as to how we get this to you because the goal hasn't changed. The tools that we use in order to accomplish the goal may have changed, but the goal still remains the same, affecting these numbers. The top 1% of hairdressers understand that when you control these key performance indicators, you control your life, and more importantly, you control your destiny. In today's series, one of the 3 series that we're doing in this particular session, I have very specific goals. The first goal is for you to learn a repeatable system to get your guests to come in 3 to 5 extra visits per year. The second goal is to teach you a proven repeatable system to increase your revenue by 20 to 40%. Now consider the impact that that's going to have as you go into arguably the busiest season of the year. And 3 is to inspire and empower you to take action to impact your life, LIFE, living inspired, fulfilled, and energized, and impact your business. Because team, how you play anything is typically how you play at everything. The idea in gamifying this business is understanding that there's 2 ways that you can play. Some salon professionals play to get by. Other salon professionals play to win. I got a little blurry there. I'm gonna have a little more coffee. Okay, so there's 2 ways you can play. And it's really up to you. Play to get by, and that's called working hard. In the example that I gave you before with regard to Becky, she's got to work 3+ days to generate the same amount of money as Megan, who's seeing the same amount of guests. How hard do you want to work? I've been in this industry for over 25 years, and I can tell you this. The majority of my friends are service providers in this industry, salon professionals, hairdressers. And you know what that means? The majority of my friends are physically deformed. Why? because you have one lower back, your rotator cuff, your knees. And I know I'm speaking to some of you who are working way too hard, and the choice is really yours, because at this moment, what I'm going to share with you will support you in really gamifying the system so you can begin working smart to earn more, learn more, and live a more abundant life. But that happens by design, not by default. So earlier, we said that numbers tell you what emotions will not. So the question that I have for you is, what story do your numbers tell you about your business? Let's talk about pre-booking, team. Pre-booking is different than rebooking. So in other words, if your guest leaves and they call you, they rebooked. Most POS systems, with the exception of two that I know of, Salon Oralware and Salonware and STX, the majority of them track a rebook, not a pre-book. So if the guest leaves and they call you, that's a rebook. If they call that day, that week, that month, or beyond. But a pre-book is when you actually get the commitment before the guest leaves the chair, before they leave the building. You know what that is? That's putting money in the future. That is money that you can bank on. And the benefits of pre-booking means that you can plan your life around it, that you can plan your business around it, right? And who doesn't want money in the future? So one of the things that we do at Amplify is we make 3 promises. We promise to increase your service sales, retail sales, and pre-booking. So before I share the how, let's take a look at what the performance standards are, team. In this industry, you are either in the top 1%, the top 10%, above average, or you're performing at an average level, which is best of the worst and worst of the best. So let's take a look at where you might be. The top 1% in this industry performs at 85%. So think about this. If you have 10 guests on this particular day, how many of them do you have to pre-book to be in the top 1%? And the answer is not 9.5, because there's no such thing as a half a client unless you're seeing a lot of Oompa Loompas, right? So you need to be pre-booking, like getting a commitment, 9 out of 10 of your guests in order to be in the top 1%. Now the top 10% pre-book at 75%. That's 8 out of 10 guests. And above average is 55, 6 out of 10. Here's what's really interesting. 85% of guests, or 85% of salon professionals in this industry perform at average, which is 34%. Now, the statistics show us that retention in this industry on an average is at 30%, meaning on average in this industry, salon professionals might see 10 clients and they keep 3, right? So great, congratulations. You only pissed off 7. Modern Salon ran a study, and it was pretty exhaustive. And what they found was, if you don't pre-book your guest, if you don't, the 30% that do come back on average, and I know you might be above average or below, but on average, the 30% that do come back will return 7 to 8 weeks later. Now keep that in mind, because we're going to unpack that and look at both the consequence and the reward of that. Let's take it further. Now, team, we have had in a room of 150 people, when I ask how many people are 1% in the top 1%, we have had 2 people stand up. And I mean, it just proves the concept. And we say, well, how many of you are in the top 10%? A room full of 150 people, we might have 12 people stand up. So it proves itself over and over. However, I want you to consider, let's say you get really good at pre-booking, and I'm going to share with you a great system to support you in generating more pre-books. But I want to ask you something. If you get really good at pre-booking, I want you to consider this. You might be struggling because you're allowing too much time between visits, and I can promise you this will hurt. As human beings, we tend to take a new action for one of two reasons. We do something to avoid pain, or we do something to gain pleasure. And it's age old. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's going to the gym, a new nutrition plan, getting organized, or just doing something uncomfortable. We do it to avoid consequence or gain reward. So I want you to look at this, because if you're pre-booking and you have people coming in every 5 weeks, congratulations, you're going to see them 10 times a year. However, if you let them go out an additional week, you'll lose 2 visits. If you let them go out an additional week, you'll lose 3 visits. However, consider that it's not just 3 appointments that you lost. It's everybody in your service cycle. And we'll unpack that here in a moment. Now remember, Modern Salon did this exhaustive study that outlined if you did not pre-book your guests, if they did come back, the 30% that did would come back within 6 to 8 weeks. Let's look at the consequence of that, and we'll unpack that right now. Earlier, we talked about your average service ticket, right? So I want you to look at this. This is a really low number. It's not a pie in the sky number. It's a number that everybody can really relate to. You might be looking at that average service ticket and going, my haircut price is more than that. My average service ticket is way more than that. So consider that if your average service ticket is more than this number, that the consequence is going to be greater, right? So there's more to gain and there's also more to lose. Take a look at this. If you currently have an average service ticket of $65 and you're seeing 6 guests a day, only 6, 5 days a week, everything that I'm telling you right now, I promise you, look at your watch, look at your calendar, everything I tell you is going to come true in the next 5 weeks of the year. And I know this because, and I can prove it, because experience tells us this. Right now, you're most likely seeing at least 6 guests a day going into the holiday season. So you can absolutely relate to this. Now, if you pre-book all of these guests to come in every 5 weeks, you're going to see them 10 times within a calendar year, which means based upon this average service ticket, you will generate $97,500. Congratulations. And again, by the way, yes, if your average service ticket is higher, you'll generate more. Now, here's what we're going to do. Pay very fastidious attention. Don't blink your eyes. You do not want to miss this. If we keep everything the same and we go to 6 weeks, we lost 2 visits. But remember, it's not just 2 visits, it's everybody in your service cycle. So that means even if you're doing 6 guests a day, 5 days a week, which is 150 in your service cycle, you lost out on 300 appointments. And the consequence here and the loss is a 20% loss. That's 19,500. Can you say ouch? If you go out if you go out 7 weeks, keeping everything the same, even if your pre-booking is very high, meaning you're getting a commitment from the guest before they leave, but you're fitting them in on a 7-week service cycle, that's a 30% revenue loss. That's nearly $30,000 by allowing them to go 7 weeks instead of 5. However, let's go to the study that we referenced with regard to the average service cycle that clients default to left to their own devices. If they go out every 8 weeks, that means you'll see them 6 times a year. And by the way, team, this is the national average when it comes to frequency of visits. This is the average. The average is 6 visits a year. And there's been exhaustive studies on this. Look at the consequence. Everything is the same. However, it's a 40% revenue loss. Team, that's nearly $40,000. $40,000, right, off the same amount of clients. So remember, we tend to take on a new action to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. So when I look at that and I go, wow, I'm losing $40,000 by not pre-booking on a shorter service cycle, I need to definitely do something about that, yes? All right, so let's move forward. Now, remember, in the other series, we will go through average service ticket and average retail ticket, but let's talk about pre-booking because that's the focus of today's session. I want you to transparently ask yourself, how many times have you said to your guests, would you like to schedule your next appointment? All right, now, if you say, would you like to schedule your next appointment? If you're being really transparent, what are your guests typically saying, right? If you say, hey, Sally, would you like to book your next appointment? Would you like to schedule your next appointment? Quite often, the most typical response is a no, or I'll call you, or I don't have my appointment book with me, or I don't know my schedule. Now, here's the interesting thing, team. I'm gonna grab my phone. Nearly every single person that you talk to has one of these, right? Let me put it in the screen. Which means they ultimately do know their schedule. So why are they not being forthright? Well, it's not because they are bad people. It's because when you ask somebody to make an appointment for 5 to 6 weeks out, when they don't even know if they are, who's everybody? I don't see myself. Okay. They go to fight or flight. They go to fight or flight, they panic. And when they panic, they lie. And when they lie, it kind of sounds like, I'll call you, I don't know my schedule, etc. Let me think about it. And we'll talk about this more in the second series, but when a client says, let me think about it, it's for one reason, because they don't want to think about it right now. So we know that this doesn't work. That being the case, how do you want to approach it? So I want you to write this down. Everything that you do, you either wing it or you have a proven and repeatable system. So here's my definition for system. And everything needs to have a system, team. Everything. From how you greet the client, to how you do the consultation, how you check out, every single thing needs to have a system. Here's my definition for system. Save yourself time, energy, and money. You have to have a system for everything that you do. Now, when somebody doesn't know what their schedule is or something comes up, consider that when we pre-book, the intention is so important. Here's what you never want to do. You never want to offer somebody a discount or some kind of incentive if they pre-book. And here's why. I've seen manufacturers do this. Sally, if you pre-book now, that you get this free, sample. Or Sally, if you pre-book now of whatever this is. You don't want to do that, because when you incentivize the pre-book, what you're doing is you're encouraging them to pre-book for the wrong reasons. And I can promise you this, that when the incentive is over, the behavior is also over. Meaning that when that promotion is done, when the BOGO, when the incentive, whenever that's done, so is the pre-booking, right? Daniel, what's going on? Is there a sound?
Yeah, there's a sound.
Is there a, here, let's do this. Hang on for, is that better? Did the sound go away?
No, it's still there.
Okay. All right, hopefully we can fix it here. Okay, I'm not hearing it, so at least that's good. So here's the situation, team. Anytime there's an obstacle, there's also an opportunity. And anytime there's an opportunity, there's also an obligation. Did it fix itself?
No, it didn't. Still going.
Is anybody hearing any kind of sound?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
You're hearing the sound? Okay. Is it a high-pitched sound? I can't hear it.
It's a crackly noise.
It's a crackly noise.
Every 6 seconds, it's like repeating for some reason.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting. Hopefully we can get through that. Hopefully it's not a distraction for anybody here. All right. So here's what I'd like to do, team. what I'd like to do is share with you a proven repeatable system that will support you in massively increasing pre-booking. Now we're going to adjust the sound. Second. Are we good? Hang on for just a second. We'll fix this in post.
Still there.
All right. So are we back? Use you as a model, actually.
I'm going to take the file.
Yeah. I'm gonna have you be right here. And okay, fantastic. So we're back. Delayed but not denied. This is what happens. This is live. Okay, cool. So we can get rid of the graphic for the moment. And this is Lily. This is my model. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about I'm going to demonstrate for you a great pre-booking system that you can use. Now, that being the case, I want you to pay fastidious attention to what I do, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll kind of unpack what the system is step by step. Now, Lily is one of our production assistants. Wave, Lily. Now, she didn't know that I was going to call on her, but it just occurred to me that I can't necessarily hear and see everybody on the other side, and I wanted to have some interaction. So I'm going to use Lily. She hasn't been prepped for this at all. So Lily, I want you to imagine that we just finished doing your hair, and I want you to imagine that we have the cape on you.
Okay.
All right. And so you're loving your hair. We just finished. I haven't taken the cape off yet. Right? And here's what we're going to do. Now, pay attention to what I do and how it's different. And notice I'm not asking her if she would like to schedule her next appointment. Pretty important. Okay, Lily, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So do you love your hair or what?
I love it.
Okay,
Yes,
take a look in the mirror and tell me what you love about it.
I like the texture. It's very smooth.
You like the texture?
Yes.
Okay.
I like the cut.
You like the texture and the cut?
The length, yeah. And yeah.
Okay, and the color?
The color I like as well. Yeah.
Okay, well that's good, because in your consultation, you didn't like the texture and you said the color was dull and drab. So did we hit the mark?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. High five. Well, the good news is you look like $1 million. Keep the change. The bad news, hair grows and gravity pulls. So in order to maintain your hair and keep it looking like this, I'll need to see you in 5 weeks. Would you prefer the beginning or the end of the week? What's easier for you?
The end of the week.
The end of the week. Now, would you prefer Wednesday or Thursday? What's better?
I'd say Wednesday.
Wednesday. Now, you typically come in the afternoons. What's easier for you, mornings or afternoons?
Afternoons. Definitely.
Afternoons? Okay, we can do as early as 4 or we can do 5:30. What's best?
4.
4. Awesome. So I got you down at 4. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your business. Not only that, I appreciate all your referrals. So have a fantastic Thanksgiving, and we will see you in 5 weeks.
Oh, thank
Okay,
you.
bye. Everyone give Lily a round of applause. Yay, thank you. So now here's what we want to do. We'll go like this. So let's talk about this, team. And what I did is I gave Lily choices, right? Now, I want you to think about this. What I typically ask people is, was it pushy? How long did it take? Was it aggressive? Was it easy? Keep in mind, we have a philosophy at Amplify Hair, which is powered by Easy Hair Pro, called easyologies, the philosophy of easyology. And what that means is when you make it easy for your guests to say yes, you make it easy for you. Now, there's a couple things at play here. One is called the speed of trust, which we'll unpack here shortly. But what I'd like to do is talk about how that was different. How that was different. What was different? And now I can see the chat window, which is really good. So if you could, what was different about that approach that I had with Lily? You know, I definitely didn't ask her if she'd like to book her next appointment. right? So what was different about it? Here's what I did do. I did a check-in with her, and I let her tell me what was better and what was different. Now, in business, the salon professionals and the organizations who focus on being first to market, better to market, and different are the salon professionals who exceed and excel above the average. So what was different about what I did? Well, if I'm going to show you some optics here, we'll put it up in the screen right here. Boom. So the first thing I did is I did a check-in, and I got not only her verbal, but I got her emotional confirmation. What does that mean? Well, what I'm trying to do ultimately is establish that what we did today was a win. It was a win for her, and it was a win for me. So most people would talk to Lily. Well, I'm getting a little blurry here. Pour some coffee on the camera. There we go. Most people would talk to their clients and say, so do you love what we did? And then they get a one-word answer, yes, okay, great. And then they move on to some, benign conversation like, do you need any products, et cetera, and so on, which usually equates to a no as well. More on that in the third series. Now, instead, when I asked her, do you love what we did? Do you love your hair? She said yes. And I gave her a mirror and said, what do you love about it? Now, what does that do? That forces her, I'm going to put up my timer here so I know where we are. That forces her to take inventory and ownership of this and tell me, remember, let's go back to first, better, different. It forces her to tell me what is different and what is better about what we did, right? So I don't simply want to say, do you love your hair? Okay, great, and then move on. Do you love your hair? Do you love your skin? Do you love what we did? Yes, and now put the mirror in her hands, and say, what do you love about it? Now, again, she is forced to take inventory, to look, and now tell you what is different and what is better, which now you can relate back to the consultation and say, great, because when you came in, here's what you said, here's what the issues were, here's what we did we hit the mark? And the reason this is so important, team, people buy emotionally first and then they justify it logically second. So it's important that she takes inventory and she sees, hears, and feels, and shares what is now both different and better. Because when we can establish that, do you believe it is going to be easier to move her into the next appointment? Absolutely. People are not going to book for tomorrow a repeat of what they didn't like today. So what we don't want is anything that's tepid. We want absolute emotional and verbal confirmation that what we did absolutely worked. And here's the key to making that happen. You do not remove their cape. Now with Lily, she didn't know that I was going to bring her out, but I just decided we were going to do that. If this was a real scenario, I would have her cape on her. And consider this, if you know anything about The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell, you understand that it starts with an ordinary person in the ordinary world doing their ordinary thing, and then something happens, they meet the mentor, they cross the threshold, right? They develop skills, they have a success, they have a setback, they go into the cave, they develop more skills, they come back with the elixir, they change the world, etc. How does that relate to your customer? Well, it relates to your customer in a very simple way, because what you're trying to do, our business is transformation. You are in the business of transformation. And it's not just physical transformation, because we know what happens. Serotonin and dopamine levels go up when somebody looks and they see a representation of themselves that is pleasant. It's not just vanity. In a lot of cases, it's therapy. Well, where am I going with this? Well, here's why you don't want to remove their cape, because it's about the trust. And we talked about this, right? So consider the fact that you're the mentor in this, and what you're doing is you're causing transformation, and you're mentoring a hero. Well, you can't have a hero if they don't have a cape, right? Theoretically. So you don't want to remove their cape because you don't want to remove their ability to give you feedback. And team, this is so critical. I see so many salon professionals losing clients because you want to move on. And remember, with people, sometimes slow is fast and fast is slow. So making sure that they have their cape on signals that I'm here for you and I'm in no rush. So when you say, what do you love about it? I love my hair. What do you love about it? Well, I love the color. I love the length, the texture, etc. And you're, okay, great. Did we hit the mark? What you're establishing is trust. Because when you say, great, so did we hit the mark? They now have an opportunity to say, yes, but this is a little bit too thick, or yes, but I'm wondering about this. And you want to make sure that you do not take away the voice of your guest, because that's where trust is built. There's an amazing book by Stephen Covey called The Speed of Trust. And the speed of trust indicates that the higher that level of trust, the quicker the transfer of agreement. So think about this. Salon professionals, business happens quicker when you develop trust with your customer. That's why you don't want to remove the cape. Now, this is just setting the scene. Now, I go into the pre-booking system. But keep in mind, the pre-booking system doesn't work unless you're doing these things. So, in order to maintain your skin, in order to maintain your hair, in order, whatever the case is, now, I go, good, I'll need to see you in 5 weeks. Would you prefer the beginning or the end of the week? I'm giving them the choice of 2. Now, this is important because think about this. If I say vanilla or chocolate, choose. You're thinking, what do I want more, vanilla or chocolate? You're not thinking, I want pizza, right? So when you limit the choice, you expedite the decision. So I'm saying, would you prefer the beginning or the end of the week? What's easier? I'm making the choice that simple. Notice I'm not asking her if she would like to book her next appointment. And this is critical in order to making it pop, sparkle, and shine. However, there's one little caveat, and if you're paying fastidious attention, and you can even rewind, and you can go back to the example that I just had with Lily in the chair, and you'll notice that although it seems like I said something similar, I didn't. And this is what separates the top 1% in this industry from those in the average, and it's right here. I'll need to see you in 5 weeks. I know it sounds like I said that, but I actually didn't. I didn't, and this is so important because your words create your world. So if you want a new result, you've got to come in with a new approach. Here's the distinction. It's subtle, but it is so critical. If you stop and you say, I'll need to see you in 5 weeks, what happens emotionally is they panic. Now, instead, I didn't say that. Here's what I did say. Phone call. Boop. Here's what I did say. I said, I'll need to see you in, and I paused. I'll need to see you in 5 weeks with you. It sounds really weird, right? And you might be thinking, Lance, this is strange, and it is. But strange things, odd things create odd results. So your words create your world. So when I said to her that I need to, in order to maintain her hair, I said, in order to maintain your hair, I'll need to see you in 5 weeks. Would you prefer the beginning or the end of the week? What's easier? Here's the important piece, and I want you to think about this. The written word is for the eye, and the spoken word is for the rhythm, right? So when you look at that client, you go, I'll need to see you in 5 weeks. Would you prefer the beginning or the end of the week? What's easier? Where's the emphasis? The emphasis is what's the easiest choice? What's easier? The emphasis isn't should I or shouldn't I pre-book? Just like when I say vanilla or chocolate, choose. The emphasis is not ice cream or no ice cream. The emphasis is on the choice. So here, When I go, I'll need to see you in 5 weeks, would you prefer the beginning or the end of the week? What's easier? The emphasis, again, is what's easier, the beginning or the end of the week. But they're no longer thinking about should they or shouldn't they pre-book, because obviously, again, hair grows and gravity pulls, right? So let's take a look at this. Let's break this down. First thing you want to do after you do the check-in with them is give them that choice, the beginning or the end of the week. What's easier? Followed by 2 choices of days. I'm going to dissect something pretty important here. If you're paying attention, did Lily say the beginning or the end of the week? She said the end of the week. That's cute. Trying to figure out what was cute, but thank you. She said the end of the week. Now notice, when we say the end of the week, most of us think Friday and Saturday. However, did I give her those choices? No. And this is what we call power booking. I did not give her the choice between Friday and Saturday. Why? Because so many of us already book up. Our busiest high traffic days are Friday and Saturday. So when I said, Lily, I'll need to see you in 5 weeks, would you prefer the beginning or the end of the week? What's easier? She said the end of the week. And I said, great. Would you prefer Wednesday or Thursday? What's better? And again, notice the emphasis is what's the better choice? The emphasis is not anything other than what's the better choice? Wednesday or Thursday? What's better for you? Now, why am I doing this? Because I want to use the pre-booking opportunity to direct my clients towards maybe my lower traffic days and reserve my Fridays and Saturdays, the high traffic days, because I know that they are going to book themselves. Is this tracking with everybody? So think about that. So now you might be thinking, but Lance, well, wait a minute. If I give her 2 choices, if I say, okay, great, beginning or end of the week, what's easier? And she says the end of the week, and I say to her, great, what's better, Wednesday or Thursday? And she says, well, can I get in on the weekend? What do you do? Well, here's exactly what you do. If somebody says, can I get in on a Saturday? And you have that space wide open, the natural tendency is to say yes. And consider the fact that when you say yes, you're abandoning the system. Stick with me here. And when you abandon the system and you say, well, yes, they could say, well, let me look at my calendar and I'll call you. Oh, back to square one. What's the point? Never abandon the system. The system's like Rick Astley. It'll never let you down. It'll never run around. It'll never hurt or desert you. I forget the song, but you get the point, right? Stick with the system. Now, 2 choices of days. Again, that's just a segment on power booking. She says the end of the week. I go, great. Would you prefer Wednesday or Thursday? What's better? She says Wednesday. Great. Now, you give her 2 choices of morning or afternoon. Now, if your schedule is you come in at 11 or you come in the afternoon and you leave in the evening on that Wednesday, you'll know in advance. You can say, great, would you prefer afternoon or evening? What's best, right? Which would you prefer? What's easier? Now notice after all these questions, I'm always placing an emphasis on easier, better, best. Easier, better, best. Somebody says, I like the suggestions, help guiding the client. Yes, because here's the situation. As a salon professional, it's your job to lead, guide, and direct. It's your job to guide transformation. And guiding transformation isn't one-dimensional. If you're only focused on the physical transformation, you're missing out on how to really win the game. How you gamify this and how you elevate and how you escalate and how you hack the system to make substantially and measurably more, seeing substantially less, is you have to guide transformation in a 3-dimensional way, not just physical transformation. So you have to lead her, you have to guide her or him. So would you prefer the beginning or the end of, or I'm back to AM or PM? I'm always asking what's easier, better, best, because context is everything. If I ask you, if I said, Lily, you know, would you prefer to come in beginning or the end of the week? What's more difficult? I know your schedule's, you know, kind of tough. You know, you're busy, you're going to school, you're doing this, that, and the other thing. You got family, right? Context is everything. So I'm making it easy. And I want the emphasis to be, because truth be told, think about this, and we're going to talk about this in a moment. How many of you, and please light up the chat window, how many of you have had guests call in on a Friday or Saturday? You have tons of things to do that night on a Friday or Saturday. Think about how many of you have had plans. You're going to go do the thing and see the stuff and be with the people, right? And then you get that call. And now you're thinking, do I cancel plans? Or do I miss out on my money? How many of you can relate? We'll talk about that. So put a pin in it. That's why I'm focusing on easier, better, best. Now, the very last thing that we want to do is give your client the choice of times. But notice that's the fourth of all the 2 choices. We're only giving 2 choices at a time, chicken or fish, chocolate or vanilla, only 2 choices at a time because it simplifies it, right? We're just really simplifying it. And at the very end, once I get AM or PM, you know, what's better for you, morning or afternoon? She says afternoon, great. We can do 4 or 5:30. What's best for you? Now, people tend to support what they create. And the reason this works is we're using a little bit of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, in order to make sure that Lily, the person who is my client or your client, plays a part in creating it, because people tend to support what they create. So what I'm doing here is I'm giving her 4 choices. And every time she makes a choice, she takes ownership of that choice. And every time she takes ownership of that choice, she has to really defend that choice. So now you're guiding transformation, but she's ultimately choosing it. And that's what makes this pre-booking system so effective, and that's what makes it so powerful. Now, the very last thing that you want to do, which is perfect leading into Thanksgiving, is you want to authentically thank your guests. And what I mean, it doesn't have to be very flowerful, it just has to be genuine, is never thank the guest for coming in. Now, this might seem counterintuitive, but consider this. Here's the choice. Notice these options. You'll weigh them out side by side and do the Pepsi challenge, right? Thank you for coming in today. That's option 1. Here's option 2. Thank you for your business. What's the difference? Well, one is thanking them for coming in today, right? And it's very limiting. But when I say thank you for your business, that's a statement on her, wait for it, loyalty. And what you ultimately want to do is you want to encourage loyalty. And you encourage loyalty by thanking her for her business, just authentically. I just want to thank you for your business, right? That's a statement on today, yesterday, and the future. Everybody got it? Say good. Okay. Now, I also want to address this, right? And we can get rid of the graphics, give it like maybe 3 seconds so anybody can take notes. Awesome. So yes, is it Guillermo? Yes, I'm absolutely thrilled. But I'm going to address this. Think about this. This is going to happen to you this week, and I can promise you, look at your watch, look at your calendar. Boom. Okay, here we are. And I can promise you that what I'm going to share with you is going to happen this week. And in fact, if you're not careful, it's going to happen for the next 5.5 weeks of the year 2020. Now, earlier, we talked about Friday or Saturday where you have plans. And some of you might have plans with your family. Some of you might have other things. It might be holiday shopping, whatever the case may be. But I can promise you, as sure as the sun sets and rises, that this week and next week and the week after, somebody's going to reach out to you. They're going to text you. They're going to call you. And they're going to ask if you can squeeze them in. And you're going to be faced to make a choice. And the choice that you're going to be faced with is, do I cancel my existing plans, right? Or do I miss out on the money? Do I stick with my existing plans and miss out on this potential client and miss out on the money? I can't afford to do that, right? Or do I stick with it? But consider this. When you say no to one thing, you say yes to something else. And when you say yes to something, you say no to something else. Team, I've spent my entire life on personal development and really studying the impact of change and what causes change. And the reason why some people are able to stick to a nutrition plan, a diet plan, some people are able to get in shape, some people are able to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars, and other people aren't. It's not because of lack of desire quite often. Change doesn't happen by simply saying, you know what, I'm gonna do this. What's difficult about change is A, making the decision, B, considering the fact that true change involves loss. That means you have to say no to something, and most people are simply unwilling to do it, and they don't consider what they have to say no to. So if you're going to get in rock hard six-pack ab shape, you might have to say no to some things that are difficult. And then the third phase of change is really the maintenance. However, I'm going to give you a quick hack that will enable you to address this in such a way that where you can retrain your customer and you can make it a win-win. Next time, where it happens this week or next week, next time you get a customer who wants you to fit her in, or can you squeeze me in? Here's what you want to say. Sally, under normal circumstances, there's no way it could possibly fit you in on such a busy day, holidays, etc., right? However, because you're such a loyal and faithful guest, I'll make an exception. I just have one request. Now, what's Sally going to say? She's going to say, sure, anything. What? Well, when you come in, let's look at your calendar. And what I'd like to do is I want to book out your next 2 appointments in order to set you up to win and prevent this from happening next time. Fair enough? Now, what you're doing is you're negotiating with her, and you have the upper hand. Here's why. Hair grows, gravity pulls. Sally, be it if you're an esthetician or even if you're a hairdresser, Sally, whoever that client is, she wants in, and she's most likely overdue. So instead of just saying yes or saying no, remember, creatives rise above the linear. So when you rise above the linear yes or no, and you really get creative and you go, well, Sally, under normal circumstances, what does that mean? It means this circumstance is not normal. Under normal circumstances, there's no way we could fit you in on a busy holiday weekend like this. So now you're lowering the expectations. And then you follow up with, however, because you're such a loyal and faithful client, I'll make an exception. I just have one request. Now let's dissect this. Let's unpack it, right? Why are you making an exception? First, we've established the rule, no, right? And then you're saying, well, I'm making an exception. Why? Because you're two things, loyal and faithful. Now, team, this will go a long way because you're saying, I'm making this exception for these two reasons. Now, even because you might be going, well, Lance, quite honestly, it's not the people who are loyal and faithful who are like the pain in my ass calling at the last minute, right? It's the last minute Lucy's that are not. Blab it and grab it, right? Name it and claim it. When you make an exception and you tell somebody why, they want to become that exception. They want to be that exception, right? And if you tell somebody, you know what, this is a very difficult concept, but you're pretty smart, so you'll understand it, all of a sudden, they own it. They want to be the exception. They want to be the reason you are making the exception. So when you say, under normal circumstances, there's no way we could fit you in. However, because you're such a loyal and faithful client, I'll make an exception. I just have one request. It's an immediate, sure, what? Anything. Bring a bottle of wine and then whatever it is. So when you are saying, I just have one request, at this point, now is where the bargaining happens. Okay, when can you come in, et cetera, and so on. You figure out the logistics, and then you go, great, when you come in, I want you to bring your calendar in, and we're going to book out your next 2 appointments in order to prevent this from happening next time. Not again, too final, too punitive. To prevent this from happening next time and set you up to win. Fair enough, and then you shut up. The first person who speaks loses. I promise you 6 ways of Sunday that Sally will say absolutely. Now, when she does show up, what you want to do is have her open her phone and at least book her very first appointment using the system that I just taught you before. And then when you're done with that particular appointment, the one that you made an exception for, use the pre-booking system that I gave you to move her forward. It all works in concert. Is this good? All right. Good. So you might be thinking, and here's what what I love. We have to sink our teeth into it. You know, when we do our live trainings and our live events, we get to really sink our teeth into it. And now you'll see like the marriage of technical and business that comes together. Remember earlier we said, and we outlined the importance of making sure that we're not just focused on technical business, but we do both. Because technical, again, for those of you who might be logging in later, technical ability is important. It's critical. I mean, we advocate you focusing on the highest earning salon services you could possibly offer in order to leverage your time behind the chair, right? Not just cuts and colors or whatever the case may be, not just your base services, but your highest earning salon services. However, it's the 85% of business acumen and the things that we're now digging our teeth into that really separate the top 1% from the rest in this particular industry. So what do you say in the event that they go, well, let me think about it? Sure. And what I'd like to do now is just quickly touch on how to overcome objections. So if we were to rewind and Lily maybe said, well, you know what, let me call you, right? I could do one of a couple things, but what I want to share with you is a surefire repeatable system. So I'm going to throw this graphic up real quick, and we'll put this up. And what I would say to her is, Lily, I completely understand how you feel. Like, let's say she's saying, it's a busy holiday. I've got people coming in, not really sure what I'm going to be. You know, let me call you. Totally, I completely understand how you feel. I've had a lot of other clients that are dealing with the same thing. They've felt the same way. Here's what we've found. By putting your appointment in, this gives us the opportunity to really book around it. In the event that we need to change it, at least we can do that. But it's so much easier to change it once it's in the books than to wait until after that space is already booked. If anything, it'll hold your space. Now, pause. You could easily say, well, you could just jump to the point and go, well, go ahead and pre-book now. It'll save your space. And if you need to cancel, you can do that. But I want you to consider that cancel is something that we call a red light word. And you never want to use the word cancel because it plants a negative seed with your client. You never want your client canceling anyway. You might want them adjusting their appointment, but you never want them canceling, right? So using this is a way, and again, it's just a little bit of neuro-linguistic programming where you're using this to empathize with the guest. I totally understand how you feel. I've had a lot of clients who have felt the same way. And what we found is by securing your appointment now, it saves your space. And in the event that we need to change it, it makes it so much easier as opposed to when that gets booked. And again, remember, you're doing this in the spirit of looking out for them. And it goes back to this. You're thinking of the client, and more importantly, you're thinking for the client. Now, when you do both, you are really controlling the entire experience. And you want to do this, team. The best salon professionals who perform in the top 1% understand how to control the experience, and they understand how to facilitate the experience. Somebody has to lead. You get paid to lead. You get paid to facilitate the experience in order, and consider that when you think of the client and for the client, all they have to do is relax. All they have to do is just take the journey. And isn't that what the salon experience is supposed to be? You don't want them having to think. I'll give you a quick example. If you have a client who has never been to your location before, and they don't know where the restroom is, and you haven't given them that kind of lay of the land, here's where the restroom is, here's where this is, here's where that is. You know, the thing that you want to do if somebody's never been to your suite or your location, what happens is you could be coloring their hair. Imagine this, they have their cape on, they have foils in, and all of a sudden their hair's processing. You step out to go grab something, all of a sudden they have to pee. Now, what happens, it's a minor thing, but you instantly take them off the happy path because now they don't know where to go. They have to wait for you. And even if you're right there and they have to ask you, like, oh, can you tell me where the restroom is? Now it's that conversation. But if you think of the client, you think for the client. I'm using this just as an example because this applies to all things. When you think of the client, you think for the client, what you do is you mitigate the risk, you lower anxiety, you make it a happy experience, and they can just really relax and take the ride. How do you increase your price in haircuts? Okay, great question. So I love the question, and if you have questions, light up the chat window. Here's the answer. Guillermo wants to know how you increase your price in haircuts. Well, there is a formula, and there's a system, but here's the secret sauce. In this industry, listen to my whole entire statement, we never, and we can get rid of the graphic, in this industry, we never increase our prices. We simply adjust our price to meet the demands of the market. So what does that mean? So we never arbitrarily increase our prices of the haircut. We adjust our pricing to meet the demands of the market. And there is a formula for it. And I'll tell you this, when you are 85% or more booked, then you want to look at how you adjust your price one service cycle out. It's just a kind, how do you increase? It's just kind human gesture. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but you can elaborate and expand upon that a little bit more, Carolina. So when you're 85% or more booked, that's when you can increase your price. That's where you can tell that client your haircut price was, say, $65 today. When you come back, I have you coming back, January the 3rd, et cetera, and so on. Your new haircut price is going to be $72. Fantastic. You can put in your signage, et cetera, and so on. But here's the big elephant in the room, team, and I want you to passionately get this. So many of you are looking at how you can make more money, and it has nothing to do with increasing your prices. Mind you, if you're 85% or more booked, you should increase your prices. It's an adjustment by 10 to 15%, no more. Give everybody at least one service cycle. Use the pre-booking system. No, right? You're golden. You're right as rain. But your growth is not going to come by increasing your prices. I mean, just rewind the tape when you're done with this. Watch the video. Your growth is going to come from increasing your average service ticket, which has nothing to do with the price of your services. So hopefully that's a good and complete answer. Suggestions for appointment booking before or after regular scheduled hours. Okay, so suggestions for appointment bookings before or after regular scheduled hours. I'm not really sure what you mean, but I think, tell me if you're asking if I have, are you saying you're opening up new hours like holiday hours? You want to let people know? Then yeah, you can let them know. Blast it out on your POS system, on your social media, let them know that you have. But here's what I want you to consider. When you tell them that you're opening extra hours for the holidays, break it down into appointments. We're expanding hours for holiday in order to accommodate more guests before we go into the holidays. So on this day and this day, I'll have 3 extra appointments. If you want one of these appointments, message me. That's just a great way to do it. Don't think about hours, think about appointments, because it makes it more personal to what the actual guest wants. Right? Let me see if there's any other questions. Someone wants to book hours before my studio opens. Well, here's the beautiful thing about this team. What we've been talking about is how to control your own narrative. Here's what happens when you don't pre-book. You have clients who now want to go, hey, can I come in at this time? Can I come in at that time? So what we're talking about is taking responsibility of the appointment before they even get out of the chair. When you do that, then you don't have people asking if they can come in at odd times and odd hours. However, the elephant in the room is because of COVID, you have had people who might want to come in earlier or might want to come in late. And that's really up to you, but you can control that by pre-booking. And so much of what we discussed in this and how to level up and how to make the rest of the year the best of the years to do one thing. Remember, people take on new actions to avoid pain and gain pleasure, avoid consequence, gain rewards. When are the 2 slowest times of the year? In this industry, the slowest times of the year are January and June, winter and summer. This conversation is really about avoiding the January crickets, leveraging the time that you have behind the chair and avoiding those January crickets. Everybody that you see this week is an opportunity for you to see one more time before the year ends. Everybody that you see next week is an opportunity for you to see the beginning of January, where everybody else has tumbleweeds going through their suites, where everybody else has tumbleweeds going through their salons. When you utilize everything that we discuss from the first minute to the last, you will be the exception, and you will have effectively and proactively avoided the January crickets. Somebody asked another question. I'm going to lean in to see this. Somebody wants to know, yeah, great question. I think he wants to know, how can you approach a client pricing with services out of regular working times? I'm not really clear. Yes, that's a great question. Caroline says, I think he wants to know, how can you approach a client pricing with services out of regular work? I'm not sure what that means. I apologize, but hopefully in what we addressed before and just now, it covers it, because we want the focus to be, how can you make the most of the guests you're currently seeing? How can you control your schedule? How can you utilize these skills? Team, skills have important utility. And the salon professionals who are able to acquire more skills and practice these skills and practice the 85% that other salon professionals don't are the ones who will find themselves moving ahead. I want you to consider this, team. Every single one of you have 86,400 seconds in a day. What we're talking about now is really what the top 1% of salon professionals are willing to do. And I want you to consider this. The people who are willing to do what most people are not willing to do today are the people who will be able to afford what most people are not able to afford tomorrow. This is about the acquisition of skill. Have no illusions. That's what it's all about. And at Amplify Hair, we focus on creating successful salon professionals, not as something that is a fluff and puff mantra or motto, but something that is measurable. Because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So when I say creating successful salon professionals, everything that we talk about, everything that we teach, everything that we share has a measurable component to it where you can actually see the numbers move. And I can tell you this is what education should do. It should move the markers. It should move the numbers. It should put more money in your bank account. It should put more time back in your time account, more time back in your calendar. Because time is a currency that we all spend. And at some point, you have a lot more yesterdays than you have tomorrow. So how are you going to invest your time? Long gone are the days that you trade time for dollars. Team, if you're still a hairdresser or salon professional and you're trading time for dollars, you haven't learned how to gamify the system. You haven't learned how to really hack the system, because that's an antiquated model. It's a model that is so outdated where you trade time for dollars. And at Amplify, what we focus on is we focus on your highest earning salon services. Not all of you need to know how to do hair extensions in order to leverage your business, but it doesn't hurt. And if you're interested, check us out, amplifyhair.com. We'll show you how to be better, and we'll show you how to be different. Somebody asked this question. Holidays are here. People like to talk about what they're doing. Keep in mind not to get too deep in those conversations that you forget how to pre-book. Very good. Awesome. Remember the end goal. Very good. What would you recommend most effective, texting or email for a client for their next booking once they've had declined and immediate rebooking in the chair? Well, first and foremost, I don't want to major in minors. Focus on the chair. Use this. Practice it. Practice makes what? Don't say perfect. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes progress, and progress makes better. And what you want to do in this situation, in this crazy COVID situation and scenario that we're in, is make sure that you come out of this better and not bitter. So I'd invite you to practice on that system when they're in the chair. Now, as far as communication afterwards, that should be the exception and not the rule, but text is usually quicker, depending upon their demographic, psychographic, and age group, obviously, but text is always better, right? Good. So team, as we complete, I want to acknowledge and thank you. If there's any other questions, I will address them, but for the people who've stayed, I want to give you a bonus. This is a bonus segment. So I'm going to pop up the graphics right here. And we're going to give you a bonus segment on luxury languaging. Luxury languaging. This is what I call red light, green light words, or caution phrases versus power phrases. And you want to utilize this in order to really inspire, impact, involve, right? Here we go. And red light words and red light phrases, caution phrases, are phrases that actually take power away from your message. And they're everyday phrases. A lot of people use them, but remember, in the salon industry, your job is to impact, to inspire, to transform. So let's take a look at this. I don't know. Now, that might be the case, but what I'd invite you to do is replace it, right, with something different. So we're going to look at all the red light phrases. I don't know, you're welcome, you said, calm down, no. Take a look at this. Have you ever told somebody to calm down? How well did that work, right? It doesn't really work. Now, again, all of these things, no, but, how are you doing? These are very commonplace words. Unfortunately, this is my hiccup. Why is it unfortunate? It should never be unfortunate. Unfortunately, I'm all booked for the holidays. You should never say that, team. You worked your ass off to get as booked as you were. So you should never use that word to describe or to communicate to your guests, right? People don't like to buy and pay. They don't want to know the price or cost. Don't tell them that you try, you can't, you won't. My name is sorry. You might be looking at this going, Lance, what are you talking about? These are regular words and phrases. However, we're going to level up. The reason you came here was to level up, so let's do it. Instead of I don't know, I'll find out or I'll look into it. Instead of you're welcome, take a page from the Ritz-Carlton. My pleasure. Instead of you said, I heard. By the way, the words you've said are responsible for so many domestic arguments. Think about, I didn't say all the time, I said most of the time, right? Soften it. I heard. Is that correct? Instead of calm down, it's I understand, or you're right. You're not saying that they're telling the truth. They're just right. About what? About that, their experience. Instead of no, even better. Instead of but, use and. Instead of how are you doing? Good morning or good afternoon. Instead of fine, be fabulous. Nothing is ever unfortunate. I'm booked for the holidays. Fortunately, I just extended my hours. On Wednesday, I have 3 extra appointments, right? That's an opportunity for you to utilize that. People don't like to buy and pay, but they love to get and have. Don't tell them what the price or the cost is. Tell them what the total of the investment is. You'll never try because try lives on won't street. Do, can, will. Never say my name is unless you're Eminem. I'm Sarah, I'm Lance. Don't use the word sorry, i.e. sorry, he's a sorry excuse for a ... Instead, use the word apology. Have to, you never have to do anything, but you'd love to, right? Maybe is always a no. Hey, Sally, are you gonna make it to the Christmas party? Maybe, we know that you're not coming, Sally. So instead, say possibly. And lastly, it's not on here, but I mentioned it earlier, never use the word cancel. This is about the art of pre-booking and reservations. Never say to a guest, in the event that you need to cancel, please, no. Cancel is such a negative word. Cancel culture. Think about it. There's so many negative connotations, and in a world full of negativity, be the light that you want to see. Instead of using cancel, use the word adjust. People have to make adjustments. We don't have to make cancellations, right? So with that, team, I want to thank and acknowledge you for joining us here. I can tell you this, you've lived your past. You've earned your present. Check out AMPLIFYHair.com and amplify your future. I'm Lance Cordy with Amplify Hair. Check us out, AMPLIFYHair.com, and stay tuned because some of you might be winning some prizes in the December giveaway. There's some exciting stuff. We're giving away thousands of dollars worth of prizes to 10 lucky winners. So stay tuned for the next series and the next year. Can't wait to see you. God bless and be well, everybody. Amplify your future. Bye.